Oral communication strategies. In the learning process of second language, skills like writing and reading are studied by students, but it seems that the major struggle is the speaking skill. As we know, oral communication involves the exchange of messages, but in the oral production of a learner of second language, some students get conscious of how is their pronunciation, monitoring their own skills. That brings some characteristics in their speech, like repeating the same words, long pauses in a conversation, hesitation, etc. Some students of second languages are aware or unaware of this. In order to avoid those situations, the students use strategies. The strategies explain techniques or behaviors that students practice as individuals to focus on certain areas to avoid certain weakness in their speech. The main target applying the strategies is improve the delivering of the message in their second language. It is mentioned that the students choose their own strategies, but many authors have done research about them to be able to classify them in categories. Thornley and Scott talk about the problem-solving mechanism that some students use. They divide them in resource deficit. The first one is a lexical, in which the students tend to abandon the original message, reduce, replace, or use all-purpose words, even make literal translation, restructuring the sentences, or simply try to reach for help in the process directly or indirectly. This is a response for a lack of knowledge of vocabulary to use in different contexts. In grammatical field, they tend to substitute elements of the grammatical structure for others, or reduce their expressions. In the phonological aspect, they tend to use similar sounding words. Other sign is the mumbling while talking. The other category is the processing time pressure. This aspect includes the pauses between the sentences, sound lengthening, lexicalized pauses, and the use of filler words. Other people performance. It is mentioned how the interaction with other people when there is a conversation with someone. The person tends to express non-understanding signs, such as asking questions, guessing, or asking for repetition, etc. Strategies are described in terms of negotiation of meaning due to problems that have manifested during the communicative interaction. It's important to understand that student who is dealing with those obstacles in their oral production can receive feedback from others in a conversation. This will not only improve the communication, but it will help the understanding and the speech of the learner.
The history of oral communication. The learning strategies have been studied by many authors over the time. They all had different perspectives about how we learn a second language and how this process is supported by different categories we normally use or see every day, because every student has a different way of learning, such as visual, auditory, etc. The process of learning a second language has been changing and evolving on how we learn it nowadays. An example would be the method that Oxford used, which is the usage of questionnaires, which he explains this process is the most efficient on the frequency of language learning strategy. It also declares it depends on how every student pays attention to the details such as pronunciation, the rhythm, the intonation, and the clarity of their speech, so every student or a learner of the second language can improve their listeners' comprehension, and they can avoid mistakes at taking in their interaction with the real English context. O'Malley and Chamotte said it was necessarily to have a social interaction with this second language so we can adapt and evolve our own communication skills. Also, the student or learner needs to have this initiative of learning and practice every oral strategy. The most recent author who suggested an oral communication strategy was Cohen, who made a checklist so he could understand the learner's method divided by 3 different processes. which were the preparation before the task, self-monitoring during the task, and self-reflection about the task. Although Cohen had the intention of making this study, this didn't work out as it was planned because he didn't pay attention enough to the sense of interaction. However, it's still important what he studied. Now we know listening and speaking skills are very fundamental for oral communication knowledge because it helps us to understand and learn more effectively the second language, and also both of them involve very different strategies that every student can develop by themselves on their own way as they feel more comfortable with practice and their own will.
We based part of our investigation on the research of Sarah Khan 2010 Strategies and Spoken Production on 3 Oral Communication Tasks, a study of high and low proficiency EFL learners. The primary research is based on tasks learning to know what learners do when they perform oral tasks in L2. Task-based teaching is an approach to teaching which learning takes place through the completion of meaningful tasks that resembles to real life. As an L2 student, the everyday interaction becomes an excellent exercise to practice the oral tasks, as learners need to, at some point, be able to communicate to those around them. Everyday activities can help them develop meaning to what they want to say. In task-based learning, or called as well TBL, learnings can be asked to perform tasks such as making videos, where they get practice, a very common activity that students have contact every day with. TBL should have a very clear purpose because this will help the learners to focus on the meaning and the ideas, starting to contrast all of them with the oral expression. In the research, the performance was examined in terms of language learners' strategies such as complexity, fluency, and accuracy. Tasks have been classified according to information flow, such as split task, shared task, one-way or two-way task, according to learner activities like role plays, decision making, or according to discourse domain like descriptive and narrative. The task has been based on the 4 language skills: reading, listening, writing, speaking, and as well grammar and vocabulary. In this research, we just focus on listening and speaking. Although many studies have investigated different strategies used or spoken production across different tasks, few studies, such as this one, have considered both of these aspects of oral communication.
Research results. Students are more likely to develop an inventory of language learning strategies when challenged. That is, when a student encounters a moderately challenging challenge when it comes to being a receiver or a sender in a communicative context where he needs to use his second language, he is forced to understand and express main ideas and reach conclusions although they do not understand a specific word. In addition, he realizes his mistakes and weaknesses, and knows in which points of his learning he must put more effort next time, asking questions that resolves the doubts that served during the challenging communicative learning interaction. For students studying English as a foreign language, it is easier to identify their own mistakes and find solutions for them than for the ones that are studying English as a second language. Students who have a better command of conversational fluency and have a better control of affective factors are more likely to have a higher level of learning and better develop of their inventory of oral communication strategies. Students with lower performance on the SEAL tests had a little frequency in these 2 skills.
Practical applications in language teaching. For successful communications, students require more than the formal ability to present well a range of expressions. Oral communication reflects the persistent and powerful role of language and communication in human society. In order to function successfully academically and professionally, we have to learn effective oral communication skills. Then conversational speak will come naturally. However, in a more formal speech, effective communication skills are essential. A poorly conducted interview, sales presentations, or legal argument could have implications that affects more people than speakers. By becoming an effective communicator, one will be able to conduct himself in a variety of personal, professional, and academically environment with confidence. In terms of practical applications, it is used in preference to laboratory work because a location is not silent feature in characterizing the kind of activity. The observation of any process could take place anywhere, but right now we are most focused on school and the students. A practical task is a work plan. It takes the form of materials for researching or teaching. Here are some of the most usable and basic forms it can be used. Number 1. Some input. That means information the learners are required to process and to be used. Number 2. Some instructions relating to what outcome the learners are supposed to achieve. We also want to mention the important application where you are doing the oral communication process, because it is very important to go step by step so the person that is learning can understand it well enough to do it on his own. So here are the importance of practical applications. Number 1. It assists learners to gain and understand of the community knowledge. That is, learners will gain experience of spontaneous interactions. Number 2. It promotes knowledge in action technique. Number 3. It develops students as a self-learner in order to have sufficient understanding of oral communication to be able to participate confidently and effectively in a modern world. Number 4. It helps students in working in teams as well as individual in order to use language purposely and cooperatively. Number 5. It helps in observing by using all sentence. Number 6. It promotes a logical and reasonable method of thought. Number 7. It helps students to be creative and be good in problem solving. Number 8. Practical task works promote engage our interest of students as well as development a range of skills that helps in communicative activities. These language skills are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Number 9. Good practical knowledge will empower oral communicator to be more effective in planning, manipulating, observing, analyzing, and evaluating oral communication to achieve desired goals. Thank you.
If I could save time in a bottle, the first thing that I'd like to do is to save every day till eternity passes away. Words could make wishes come true. I'd save every day like a treasure, and then again I would spend them